Senator from Rhode Island is recognized.
Mr. President, thank you. I rise today to discuss S1582, the so-called Genius Act. Several weeks ago, when the majority leader said we would have votes on amendments, I took him seriously, and I was one of the first to file. And we could have been voting on amendments, my amendments, those of my colleagues, at any time in the last few weeks, but that hasn't happened. And that's regrettable, because the Genius Act, as it is currently drafted, is, I believe, fundamentally flawed. The Genius Act exposes taxpayers, consumers, and the financial system to unacceptable risk. And it creates venues for criminals, terrorists, and rogue governments to finance their illicit activities. Among other things, this bill places the U.S. government's stamp of approval on Tether, the world's largest stablecoin, which is based in El Salvador and favored by North Korean, Russian arms dealers, ransomware attackers, the Iranian military, drug cartels, and so many other criminal organizations. It takes already weak state laws, the Genius Act, and makes them weaker and applies them nationwide, making it possible for stablecoin companies to operate with near zero capital and unable to withstand a financial crisis. It's possible for stablecoin companies to avoid getting an audit. It's impossible for the government to revoke a stablecoin company's charter, even if it turns out to be a Ponzi scheme or if an executive dips into consumer funds. The Genius Act buys into the belief that the billionaires running the industry know what they're doing, and that the marriage of complex financial products and complex technology simply can't fail. The one thing the billionaires know is how to protect their interests, so the presumption is, again, it will not fail. But not surprisingly, this bill leaves open the door to bailouts, which we have seen time and time again for other lightly regulated non-banks that got into trouble, like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, AIG and Bear Stearns. When there is a run on stablecoin, and there very likely will be a run one day, the industry will turn to the American taxpayer for a bailout, and the Genius Act paves the way for that to happen, with no limits on the Federal Reserve's authority to prop up the industry. Finally, this bill perpetuates Donald Trump's naked corruption. It actually greenlights the name of Trump's stablecoin, USD1, and allows Trump's hand-picked regulators to write the rules of the road governing his most recent business venture. Mr. President, we need to provide real guardrails that will protect consumers, real tools for our national security agencies to address this new technology, and real authority for regulators to intervene in a crisis. Real guardrails and real tools, not words on a page that give only the aura of regulation and protection with no teeth. My amendments, and those offered by colleagues on both sides of the aisle, would provide these tools and authorities. However, it appears that we won't have the opportunity to consider a single one of them and improve this legislation. Because of that, I would urge my colleagues to oppose this bill. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield the floor.